Welcome to the third do-it-yourself exercise where you can challenge yourself with the VLOOKUP formula exercises. We will start with a simple case where we just want to VLOOKUP the salesperson name and the branch, and there are no traps in here except maybe for the fact that you need to be careful and not take the transaction ID but take the salesperson ID, and we just select 3 columns altogether. Look in the second in the first scenario and always remember to place 0 at the end. Then we can copy the formula and paste it just to change the third argument to 3 to select the branch, and copy the formula down. What if the same information would be stored in a table? We can VLOOKUP salesperson ID in the current row, then we can select the data in the table. You can see that we see the table name, and then we can select the second column, and once again it's 0. The formula should copy itself down. Then we can copy the formula once again and just replace the third argument, and the case is solved. And if we add some more data to both of the tables, our formula will work exactly the same. Now let's complicate a bit the scenarios, and we are supposed to assign states to the customer. So one row is one customer, and by using the postcode we need to check what is the state of the customer. But if the postcode is missing, we need to leave the empty cell. So let's start with a simple VLOOKUP formula, but if you compare the postcodes in the A column and H column, you will see that they are not exactly the same. The pattern in here is that if you take 6 letters from the left of the postcode, then you can use this to do the VLOOKUP operation. But the second thing in here is, wait a moment, we need to place the postcode in front of the state unless we want to use the index and match combination or the new XLOOKUP formula. So in this case, let's start once again and do a VLOOKUP on something extracted from 6 characters on the left of the A2 cell. Then let's VLOOKUP in G to H columns, then from the second column, and once again it's in exact match. Probably we will get some errors, so this is now a good moment for the if error formula, where we can say if we don't have any postcode in there, let's leave the formula empty, and when we copy the formula down we get the end result. One more complication is when you try to VLOOKUP the data you have, in our scenario salesperson, and we are looking for the city in there, and you do the exact match, but still you get some strange results like 0 in here. Why is that? Because the H6 cell is empty, and because it's empty, the value of the cell is 0. That is why you can sometimes get not only errors as something not available when using VLOOKUP, but also a 0 value. In the fifth exercise, because we want to get an answer like yes or no, so in case of Excel this is going to be true or false, we probably will need to modify somehow the VLOOKUP formula. But let's start with the initial formula at the beginning. And in the table array you can always use just one single column with the exact match, and in this case you will get some of the complaints IDs, but also some errors. Then we can check if this is an error, and the formula is error will work. So we will get answers like false and true, but actually we have a question, is it on the list? So we need the opposite, which means we can use the not formula to switch from false to true and from true to false. if you want to find the last date of something or the max number of something, you can use a trick with sorting. So in our case, we have some kind of complaints and the complaint dates, and you can see them in random order. But if we apply custom sort and say we would like to sort by the complaint ID from A to Z, but then by the complaint date from newest to oldest, then for each of the complaints we will get the latest complaint date on top. And then we can just simply use the VLOOKUP formula to look for the last status that we need, and we will also discover that there is one complaint not available on the list. In the last exercise, we would like to calculate the time to close the complaint. We can see the complaint and its opening, and the complaint is closed. And we need to calculate the difference between those two dates. But before we start, we need to check two things. First, if the last status is closed, and the second one, if the date exists at all. So let's start maybe with these two conditions, and if we would like to check these two conditions, we will probably need to use the AND formula, because it allows you to check whether two conditions are correct or not. The first one is if we create the VLOOKUP formula based on the A to C range, and we would look for the third column and with the true at the end, which will allow you to always find the last status, which is closed in this case, and it is supposed to be equal closed. And the second one is if the date exists at all, so we can do another VLOOKUP, but this time just check whether the VLOOKUP is error using the exact search, and we need to once again do the opposite, which means use the not formula. And this is the scenario for the formula. We can see true, triple false, and then true at the end. We can now use the if formula, and if this condition is met, we can do the VLOOKUPs. First, the VLOOKUP that will look for the closing date. So keep in mind we need to change the column to the B column, which is the second column, minus the VLOOKUP that will return the opening date. Once again, we change it to the second column. And if the first logical condition with the AND formula was not true, then we would like to see some kind of error in the cell. And based on this, we can calculate in days how long it took to close the complaint.